Welcome to That's Based. Happy Wednesday. I'm your host, as always, Caleb Salvatore, reporting from somewhere underground. We're laughing our way through the end of days. We're brought to you by Outlaw Streamers and, of course, our good friends at Blood of Tyrants Wines. Drink bloodofTyrants.com with the promo code BASED, BASED, like the title of the show. It's going to save you 10% off your order at the checkout. 2 types of wine, both red and white, along with the Liquid Freedom energy drink. The wine will give you the liquid courage, not the energy drink. The energy drink will give you the energy you need to make it through the day, to get to the point where you can get a little bit of liquid courage, and you maybe ask that cute girl at the bar to dance. Do people still do that these days? I have no idea. I've been out of the game for a long time. I don't know how flirting, dating, any of that works. I'm sure it's just some unmitigated disaster at this point. DrinkbloodofTyrants.com, promo code BASED, BASED, like the title of the show. It's going to save you 10% off your order at the checkout. One more time, drinkbloodofTyrants.com, promo code BASED, BASED, like the title of the show, will save you 10% off your order at the checkout. Well, we have got a fun midweek check-in for you here this week. I think we're just going to call Heartland Hot Takes a segment. We're not necessarily going to do it on the 4th Wednesday of the month. We're just going to sprinkle it in whenever I feel it's necessary. How about that? Sometimes you'll get it 5 or 6 times in a month. Sometimes you'll get it once a month. Sometimes you won't get it at all. We've got the Omaha mayoral race heating up, obviously. So you're going to get it a little bit more, because this isn't just a local issue. This is also a significant gauge in a swing district, in a purple city, if you will, as far as what the national temperature is like. You've got a couple different candidates here running for mayor. It could really tell you what way it's going to trend. This is a district that Kamala Harris won by a couple of points, but still has a Republican congressman. So it's really a coin toss. It's really a coin toss. Which direction are they going to go? And you've really got 3 different people that are representing the 3 factions of American politics. You really do. You've got, because I don't think that American politics are a binary. I really think there's 3 different sides to this coin at this point. I think you've got the establishment, which is well represented by Jean Stothert. You have got the more anti-establishment conservatives, which are represented by Mike McDonnell. And then you've got the liberals, which are represented by folks like John Ewing, who I don't have a problem with John Ewing. He seems like a decent enough guy. I would vote for him over Stothert, but obviously we know I'm a fan of Mike McDonnell, who's running against her. I've publicly endorsed him a number of times, and I stand by it. Well, they had the debate this week for the city of Omaha mayor, and I would encourage everyone to watch it that's interested. It's an hour long. I believe it's still on YouTube. I watched it live today, but it's on YouTube. You can go check the whole thing out over there. And, it really put into perspective. I'm going to be honest. They had 5 candidates there. 5 candidates. I thought McDonnell did the best job of all of them. He was the only one with different ideas that weren't totally unattainable. And I don't say that biased. As we all know, I happily cheerled for Donald Trump, but called him out on a miserable debate performance against Kamala Harris a couple of months ago. I have no problem. I have an entire segment dedicated to attacking people on my own side when they do something I don't like. So I have no problem calling out my favorite candidates, but I really thought McDonnell won the debate, and I don't even think it was close. You want me to be honest, Kamala Harris, or excuse me, not Kamala Harris, but they're this, you know what? Fuck, I didn't even mean to say that. But Jean Stothert really gave me Kamala vibes. Go watch it for yourselves. She comes off as angry, bitter, and condescending at every single question they ask her. I mean, it was a horrible performance from the incumbent mayor. It was really bad. She is a condescending, mean woman. That's the vibe I get when I see Jean Stothert talk in this debate. And she wasn't even getting, to get snippy with your opponents is one thing, but she was talking at the room and still angry. The moderator would ask all 5 of the candidates a question. They'd all go around and answer the question, some of them better than others. And then it'd come to Stothert, And she would like start yelling at the air. You know that meme, The Simpsons, old man yells at cloud? This is old woman yells at just room. Like she was chastising everyone in the room for even daring to question her authority. I mean, Tony Connor, he's the, high up within the Omaha Police Officers Association. He had a great point on Facebook, and I don't think I could put it any better than myself, when he said that power has a shelf life. It really does. She has overstayed her welcome. There's a reason why when the founding fathers drafted up the way this country was going to be, not the founding fathers, but shortly after, there's a reason a lot of folks were pushing for term limits. And there's a reason they implemented term limits in the 1900s for the executive branch. Because this guy named FDR stuck around, right? So the idea of term limits was not a new concept. They shot it down. They went through a guy named FDR in the 1900s who maybe overstayed his welcome. He was really popular, and then people were like, okay, we're kind of tired of this guy. And I got opinions on FDR I won't even get into. But there is a shelf life on how effective you can be, I think, in politics, period, whether you're in the executive, the judicial, or the legislative branch. But nonetheless, executive specifically, that's what we're talking about here. The idea that someone in an executive position like mayor, governor, president, whatever the case may be, could hold 4 consecutive 4-year terms. It's a bit much. It's a bit much. You know what I'm saying? A little too much. But I think she might bite herself in the ass in an era where everything you do is under a microscope. And I really do think that cost Kamala. I really do. The fact that she came off as condescending really cost her. And Stothert comes off like that too. She comes off like a stepmother who's lecturing you. But she's like a stepmother who's like, she married the dad when the kids were like 15. So she really doesn't have the authority to come in and yell at you, but she's doing it anyway because she doesn't know how else to get your respect, and she knows dad's going to back her up no matter what. That's the vibe I get from Jean Stothert when I see her just scold the entire room because the moderator dared to ask her the same question that he asked 4 other fucking people. I mean, so there were a couple of issues that popped up, and I took some notes while I was watching it. One of the issues that came up was juvenile crime, which is a big problem. It's skyrocketing in Omaha. It's a big issue. I noticed one guy said that 55% of our youth were in jail. I'm pretty sure he misspoke because I don't hang out at the youth jail. But I'm pretty sure 55% of the youth in Omaha are not in juvenile detention right now. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure they're not. That guy would be a fun interview. I may try to get him on the show. I think that would be funny, if nothing else. I've never seen. It's this guy named Terry Brewer. He's an independent. I didn't even know he's running. He's brand new to the race, but he got on the debate stage at the last second, and I've never seen somebody, a politician. Like, because you always have the problem with politicians talking over their time and going, this guy, the second that stopwatch would hit 0, he mid-sentence, mid-point, doesn't matter, would stop talking. I've never seen anything like it. It was the funniest thing, oddly respectable, but the funniest thing I've ever seen on a debate stage. Go watch it just for that reason and nothing else. I mean, the guy, he's not going to win, but I just thought, I found that to be funny. I would like to see what he could say if I, you know what I'll do if I interview him? We'll Zoom him, right? And I'll hold my phone up and run the stopwatch and see if I can get him to stop in the middle of a sentence. See if I can get him to do the same thing here. Be like, oh, sorry, time's up. Time's up, Terry. We got to move on to the next one. On to the next question here, Terry. Time's up. Let's just keep getting it shorter and shorter and shorter, right? Like 60 seconds, then 50, 35, 21 seconds. See if I can get it. He's got like 7 seconds. Well, I think the solution to, sorry, Terry, we got to move on to the next one. We have to move on. But no, they talked about juvenile crime. And one of the big things I see about juvenile crime, whenever we talk about it, is rehabilitation, 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 which I don't disagree with. I don't think children are irredeemable, right? However, Senator McDonnell was the only one who brought this up during the debate. juvenile crime has victims. And we have to keep in mind the victims of these crimes. Victims of theft, victims of assault, victims of robbery, victims of rape, victims of murder by teenagers. And Jasmine Harris did bring up a good point, which is that if our juveniles are committing violent crimes, we failed them and we should stop them. We should implement, she would like to implement government programs to prevent them from getting to the point where they can commit these crimes. That's where we separate. She identified the problem with an incorrect solution. I would like to, encourage people to parent their damn kids because you do a whole hell of a lot better than the government does. But Senator McDonald was the only one who pointed out that these crimes have victims, which they absolutely do. And I mean, you see this kid will go in, he's 13 years old, and rob a store with an illegal gun that he stole from somewhere. And the overwhelming majority of society looks at this kid as the victim, which in a weird way he is because he's been let down to where he's at that point in life. But the shopkeeper's also a victim. The lady that got the gun pointed in her face over $75 is also a victim. And while I that child is far from irredeemable, there needs to be some type of justice. We need to have some type of punishment for these kids. And we also have to address the fact, and this is a big issue here locally as well, we have to address the fact that we've got, and I see this all the time, especially late at night out driving on the interstate, is you've got these kids, a lot of them are minors, who soup up these piece of shit cars, and they'll go 115 miles an hour down the interstate. And a couple of them have killed people. I'm sorry. If you're doing that, that's not an, I was put in a bad situation and I didn't know any better. That's an, I'm a sociopath and I have no respect for human life issue. That kid should, if we pull you over going 100 miles an hour and you don't have someone either bleeding to death or giving birth in your passenger seat, you should go to jail for a year. No good behavior. Go to jail for a year. I don't care how old you are. And then when you come out of jail, you lose your driver's license for 10 years. And if we catch you driving again, you're going to go to jail for another year. And then you're going to lose your driver's license for 20 years after that, and will continue to keep compounding until you do substantial time in prison for the rest of your life if you don't get it, because you've demonstrated that you don't have a value for human life. There's a lot of juvenile offenders out there. Yes, there are some kids that are misled and went down the wrong path, and we should do what we can to try to steer those kids on the right path. Ideally, an ounce of prevention's worth a pound of cure, but let's not act like there isn't an increase in this younger generation of kids who have had no consequences and just don't give a damn. And yeah, I mean, ideally, you would have parented and done something about that before it blew up in everybody's faces. But that ship has sailed. Now we have to issue out actual punishments for these crimes. We can't just look at violent criminals as victims while ignoring their victims. So Mike McDonald was the only one who brought the actual victims of juvenile crime up, which, believe it or not, are the victims. Sorry, I am dehydrated today. I'm chugging water. I don't know my problem. It's probably the 5 cups of coffee I've had. That might have something to do with it. 5 cups of coffee will usually, which is an average. I actually found out I'm way over the recommended dosage for coffee. Not way over, but I'm over it. I'm over it for an average. Like, I'm 6'1", 210 pounds. I'm a bigger dude, right? So my size, I might get, and I work out every day. So my size, I might be able to get away with it. Average size human, I'm over. My size, I'm like teetering. So I'm dehydrated. It's fine. It's fine. I drink a gallon of water a day, guys. If I whatever. So another thing I noticed there was Jean Stothert claimed when confronted about rapidly expanding the city's budget by nearly 40%. She claimed, and I quote, "The budget has usually stayed under 4% growth in most years," which is directly dodging the claim because she knows it's true. Yeah, the budget is, hey, you just this year, you expanded the city's budget 40%. Well, the budget, I try to keep the budget under 4%. And it's usually stayed under that in most years. What a convoluted politician, used car salesman spin to throw on something like that. I mean, that is shameless. That's shameless. And it really goes to show how antiquated and outdated this form of debate is. You know, we should let people have a conversation. I'm not saying it has to be a mudslinging shitfest, but we should let people have a conversation and have like retorts that are well thought out and not clipped into 1-minute sound bites where they can actually respond to each other. In fact, there's 5 candidates for mayor of Omaha that are running. I would be more than happy to host such a forum. I can provide a venue. I can take care of all of that. I can provide the equipment. We can, if you want to partner with local news, if you don't trust me as a moderator, I would still be more than happy to set this up. And I can get you an unbiased moderator who, while I stand off in the background and look pretty and keep all the money. We can do that. If you guys really want, if you guys are interested, I would, and I know people from a certain campaign listen to this show. They hate listen, but that's okay. I consider this an official extension. I would like to have the first ever open not debate, open conversation amongst mayoral candidates. And maybe we'll have to split it up. First and foremost, I'd like to get McDonnell and Stothert in the room, since those two are clearly the front runners right now, considering she refers to him as my opponent rather than saying my opponents, which tells me she's seen the internal polling and she knows who she's going to be facing in April or after April. So another thing she claimed, so 2 opponents brought up what I've been saying, not just about the streetcar, but altogether. 2 opponents brought up in this debate the tax rates in this city and the fact that property taxes continue to skyrocket. Now, Stothert clapped back to that. To her credit, she kind of addressed it. But again, this is what I don't like. Talk to me real. Don't give me corporate covering my ass plausible deniability. Talk to me real, because there's a corporate explanation and there's a real explanation to every problem out there. And the corporate explanation is just enough to give you plausible deniability and wash your hands of any wrongdoing. And that's exactly what she said. She said, we can't control what the Douglas County assessor says. But no, you can't. That's correct. You can't control what the Douglas County assessor assesses my house at. However, what you can control, Mayor Stothert, don't you find it a little odd that every single time the city of Omaha needs to fund a new pet project, all of a sudden the Douglas County assessor just pulls a rabbit out of the hat and finds that all of our houses have skyrocketed in value for no apparent reason? Don't you find the consistent timing of that just to be just a little odd, Jean? Don't you think? I don't know. If I didn't know any better, I'd say there might be a little bit of communication going on between the city of Omaha and the Douglas County assessor. I think some phone records should get seized here, personally. That's just me. I don't know anything. I'm just spitballing. I'm not stupid. I know how I can jump to conclusions about how local politics work. Now, she did, like I said, multiple opponents bring up the tax rates. And one of her unhinged rantings, she decided to go on a tirade about the streetcar. She said the streetcar cannot be stopped because her opponent, Mike McDonnell, one of his central issues is the streetcar. And you know what? That's smart politics. You take an issue that everybody's pissed off about. It's like that's very unpopular, that the other side is a big cheerleader of, and you throw it in their face over and over and over again. That's what Donald Trump did. We talk about the 80-20 rule on this show all the time. Donald Trump did that, and he's still doing it. He took the trans kids and, men playing women's sports issues and made the Democrats defend something that he knew was wildly unpopular to the general public. He took the horrible immigration policies. He's now making them defend government waste. Selling us out to other countries. It's the 80-20 rule. McDonnell's done that. He's taken an issue that's wildly unpopular in the streetcar and stapled it to his opponent. Said, she's the streetcar mayor. She's the streetcar mayor. Now, Stothert said very angrily, I don't think I can replicate. I'm serious, guys. I don't think I can replicate the bitterness in this old hag's voice if I try. It's that bad. Just rage pouring out of her. I mean, I'm not going to say it. But here's what she claimed when she said the streetcar cannot be stopped. She said there's 19 legal contracts that have been signed, would lead to lawsuits against the city and damage our bond rating, and the funding would be thrown onto the taxpayers. So basically, Mayor Stothert's message here is, I was irresponsible and negotiated the city into a bunch of one-sided contracts for something that nobody even wanted, knowing good and well I didn't have the authority, or excuse me, that nobody even wanted. Well, let me rephrase that. Her message was, I was irresponsible and negotiated the city into a bunch of one-sided contracts for something nobody even wanted, then promised people a vote on it, knowing good and well I didn't have the authority to do that. Vote for me! That's the Stothert special right there. Because here's the thing, guys. On this streetcar, when she claims that we're not going to pay for it, she says private developers are going to pay for it. Well, yes, maybe private developers, let's say for argument's sake, and I haven't seen the contracts, but let's say for argument's sake that private developers are funding the whole streetcar. Let's just say for argument's sake that they are. The whole construction of the streetcar. Those private developers aren't going to keep pouring money into this 150-year-old antiquated technology after it's been built. Who do you think gets footed with the bill on that? Us, the taxpayers. So it's another half-truth corporate response that she knows. By the time it comes to pay the piper on the maintenance for this thing, she's going to be long gone and out of office. So she's lied to you when she said you could vote on it. Because she said McDonald, which is something I've said on this show and I've made loud and clear on social media, McDonald pointed out, hey, you said in 2017, by the way, during an election year, crazy how she all of a sudden stops being Chancellor Palpatine every time an election year rolls around. The Senate. But he said, hey, you said in 2017 that people could vote on this. And she ignored it and then accidentally circled back to it, saying the mayor doesn't have the authority to bring something like a streetcar that's been approved by the city council to a vote. Only the city council can do that. Okay. Maybe that's the case. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. Why would you promise something like that? She didn't deny promising it. She ignored when he said, hey, you promised people this. She just said the mayor can't do that. So one of two things happened. You promised that with absolutely no intention to ever follow through on it, or you promised that without actually looking into whether or not that was a promise that you could keep. Both of those in the private sector will get you in some shit, Mayor Stothert. But since you're a public sector parasite that hasn't had a real job in God knows how long, you can just rely on the short 24-hour news cycle to glide you over the finish line and hope everybody forgets about it. Well, we're not going to let you forget about it on this show. We're going to bring that up over and over and over again. So she's lied to you when she said you could vote on it. She lied to you about how much it would cost. She lied to you about how long it would take to complete. But hey, she's totally telling you the truth when she says they aren't going to raise your taxes to pay for it. You should trust her on that one. It's not like she, ran her entire initial campaign back in 2013 on getting rid of the restaurant tax, and then the moment she took office, expanded and increased it. It's not like she did. Oh, no, she did do that. So it's almost like there's a track record with this woman making empty promises and not only not following through on them, turning around and doing the outright opposite of what she promised. Believe me, We saw it with the restaurant tax in 2013. We saw it with the streetcar vote in 2017. We're going to see it again with the you're not going to get your taxes raised to pay for the streetcar thing. This is going to be another one of her lies that she turns around and not only doesn't follow through on, but outright does the opposite. Don't be surprised if you see them jack our taxes up under her rule. Not 4 years later when she's retired. Under her watch. Don't be surprised if you see them jack our taxes up to pay for this crap. And here's my thing on the contracts. Yes, there are contracts. Like I said, I haven't seen the contracts. I don't know what they say. But here's what I do know about contracts, and what I do know is someone who has gotten himself out of a really bad personal financial situation. Making one bad financial decision does not justify anybody continuing to make additional bad financial decisions. You don't get to go, well, I'm already $5,000 in credit card debt. What's another $3? Let's go out to the bar and go on vacation next month. You don't get to do that. I mean, you do, but there's going to be consequences for it. It's a bad idea. You go, you know what? I really fucked myself on this credit card thing. I'm going to stop going out. I'm going to get a second job, and I'm going to bust ass until I pay this off. And then I'm going to chop the credit card up and learn from my mistake and not do it again. She's not doing that. So yes, there are contracts, but here's the reality is you can get out of contracts. Now, you may have to pay your way out of contracts, but if you pay these companies what they're owed, believe me, they're not going to throw a big fit about it. They're not. It'll suck for a little bit, but they're not going to throw a big fuss about it. And in a lot of cases, since they're not going to have to dedicate the manpower and labor, you can negotiate these contracts to something lower, just like with anything else. And most contracts have clauses in them that say if you want to do an early out, there's a termination that, yeah, it sucks to pay it and you're not going to get the full thing that you signed up for. But at the end of the day, it's still better than having to pay for the full thing after you decided it really wasn't for you anymore. You can do that with literally anything. Like, let's say you get an apartment and you move into the apartment, you live there for 2 months, it's a 12-month lease. You live there for 2 months and you go, this place sucks. I don't like it. It's too far away from everything. The parking lot is full of chuck holes. They won't fix it. The lock on my door is broken. It's drafty in here. It smells funny. My neighbor's a lunatic. Nothing that you could take to a court and say, I'm out of this lease. They violated their end of it. But the place just sucks, and you regret signing up to move in there. There's a clause on that lease more often than not that says you can pay a fee, a rate, usually like 2 or 3 months rent, and absolve yourself of that apartment lease. It's not ideal. It's not fun, but you don't have to live there for the next 10 months, and you don't have to pay the next 10 months rent. Still got to pay something because you did sign a contract, but there's an out to it. Something tells me they've got clauses in these 19 legal contracts for this streetcar that are similar to that. If not, realize what that means. That means that a tenant paying $1,500 a month on rent in an apartment who wields virtually no negotiation power has somehow managed to negotiate better terms than the mayor of the city of Omaha has for us. That alone should be reason to kick her out. Now, maybe the streetcar is a done deal. Maybe it is. But she's not innocent of this. And I understand the city council passed it. It wasn't like an executive order. I get that. But she was the biggest cheerleader for this thing in the world, literally and figuratively. She is freakishly tall. But basically, she sold us all down the river on something we didn't want after she lied to us time and time again about it. So even if the streetcar is a done deal and there's no way to get rid of it, this is someone who deserves to pay politically for what they have done. This is someone, we need to send a message as a city that, hey, you don't get to just take advantage of us and screw us over like this. If you go into work and you do all kinds of damage one way or another and cost the company a bunch of money, they're not going to get that money back. But what they are going to do is fire you. They're going to fire you for two reasons. Number one, you deserve to lose your job because you just screwed the whole company over. Number two, they need to set an example that both your coworkers and the next guy who takes your job, or woman, or they, them, isn't going to be able to come in and screw around with them the same way you did. There's your Stothert screw-up report on the Omaha mayoral debate. Man, I have opinions on that one, don't I? Damn. Well, let's go to the next one. We got two quick ones here, and then we'll get out of here. My iPad weather app is giving me the weather for Las Vegas. It must be reading my mind as far as where I want to be right now. I don't know. But, so the price of eggs is officially lower than it was when Donald Trump took office. Now, we knew they had a big old stink about that. The liberals were literally throwing eggs at us, going, look, the eggs, the eggs, the eggs. That was their big symbolism right there, was the eggs. Well, can't do that anymore because they've officially, after 1 month, 1.5 months, dropped lower than they were when President Trump took office. Now, you are going to see a surge in prices with Easter coming up because you weirdos have to buy all these eggs and dye them. I don't know what that has to do with Easter. No clue. But, I mean, I guess if it makes your kids happy, then do it. But the egg prices are going down. Gas prices are also at the lowest point in March that they have been since 2021. So we're at a 4-year low on gas prices as well. Not only are we at a 4-year low on gas prices, you had, under the Biden administration, you had about over nearly 40% of new hires in the United States were public sector hires. Public sector hires. Under Donald Trump, 93% of new jobs, by the way, we've got a couple 100,000 of those last month, are private sector. You've got inflation down to 1.35%, the lowest it's been since Trump left office. Gas continues to fall. Now the Dow Jones will ever. Oh, what about the stock market? I love it. They continue to pivot. Your IRA's in the toilet. Yeah, and you know what? I'm not retiring anytime soon, so I don't give a damn. It'll go back up. I'm not a financial advisor. You should always consult your financial advisor. But the thing I've learned about stocks is they usually go up because if they went on this perpetual downfall, we wouldn't have a country. So I'm not worried about it. I'm not even 30 years old. Retirement's not on my mind. In fact, if you're under 30, I think you should take your 401k out and go to Disneyland with it. That's a joke. Don't do that. Not financial advice. But things are starting to look up. But you wouldn't hear that if you look at the media. If you look at what the mainstream media and, their cronies like Drudge Report are saying, it's the opposite. Everything's burning to the ground, and Trump voters everywhere are going, this isn't what I voted for, when everybody who I know who voted for Trump is like, yeah, this is actually exactly what I voted for. Precisely, honestly. But nonetheless, that's all they're talking about. And here's what's going to happen. This egg thing that they've been talking about nonstop for the last month because it's some big dunk on Donald Trump is going to go away. Like I said, you'll see a brief spike around Easter, and then prices are going to continue to fall unless you have another bird flu, pandemic, where they have to kill another 150 million chickens like Biden did right before he left office. Biden personally went around and killed those chickens, in case you didn't know. He is the chicken grim reaper. Joe Biden is. But you're going to see another, so they'll stop talking about eggs. And what'll happen is folks in conservative and alternative media like myself will go, I don't hear you talking about eggs no more. Notice how everybody quit talking about egg prices, and that's great. I like to point out the hypocrisy and how they basically run cover for one side of the political spectrum. I love doing that as much as the next guy. I do it on this show. But at some point, we've got to stop doing that. We've got to stop doing that because that is a defensive maneuver, not an offensive one. That's a defensive maneuver. When the mainstream media is painting something as a massive failure for Donald Trump, as they're going to do, because this is his negotiation tactic, is shock therapy. It's initially bad and then turns good eventually. When they paint something as bad for him, and then it turns the corner and actually starts going his way, and they stop reporting it, and we go, oh, look how they stopped reporting, and then we move on to the next topic. We're not helping. We're playing defense. It's time to play offense. When we do that, we're letting them control the narrative. Whereas if this were Biden and the shoe were on the other foot and the roles were reversed and a Democrat had office, or Biden, Harris, whoever, this is all they'd be talking about. So we need to keep reminding them when we have victories like this, we need to keep the subject matter on that. We need to keep talking about how eggs are lower than they've been, or the lowest they've been since he took office, lower than, before he took office. We need to talk about how gas is the lowest it's been in March for 4 years. We need to talk about how inflation's under 2% right now. We need to talk about how the Federal Reserve just cut the rates. Not a lot, but still a cut. We need to talk about those things. And we need to keep driving the point home. Stop letting the other side control the narrative. The other side does not like you. The narrative they're going to push is going to be 100% negative on us. They will never admit when we win. So it's up to us. And as we've seen, we're not as small of a minority as we think we are. We may even be the majority. It's up to us. If we're not the majority, we at least have a majority of people who are receptive to our message. So it's up to us to drive that message home and blow the wins up to the same degree they blow our losses up. Stop looking, and we should point out the stupid and crazy things the left does, but we have to stop being so scatterbrained. We have to stop going, oh, look, told you, egg prices are down. Anyway, did you see what AOC said? And, this transgender activist, blah, blah. Let's stop for a little bit and talk about how low those eggs are. Let's talk about how low that inflation rate is. Let's talk about how Canada just caved on tariffs once again. Let's talk about those things. Let's talk about how we're getting what we want with President Zelensky. Because they'll stop talking about all those things. But if we control more of the narrative than we think. We can control more of the narrative than we think. We just choose not to. We choose to play their game and chase them and throw little punches at them and try to dunk on them like it's some type of victory. And those things are important, but we should also relish in our victories to the same degree that the other side relishes in our so-called defeats. Let's go to the last segment here. Andrew Tate, we reported on coming to Florida a couple weeks ago. Governor Ron DeSantis said Andrew Tate is not well and his brother are not welcome in Florida. Byron Donalds had a similar message. Andrew Tate went on the PBD podcast and said, hey, Governor DeSantis, you're a pussy. I'm paraphrasing, but that's more or less what he said. And the Attorney General of Florida said, cool, we're opening a criminal investigation into you two. Cool. And you guys know I'm not a big fan of Andrew Tate. I don't know if he did what they... And I always have to preface this because we always get attacked. I don't read the comments whenever we post an Andrew Tate video because I really don't care. You can... And that's what I've always said is the most dangerous lie is one that's coded in truth. You can agree with what the guy says. I hear a lot of the stuff he says. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. His political and worldview is probably more similar to mine. Not every issue. Of course, he gets a little extreme on some of them. But his political and worldview is probably more similar to mine than it is different. Right? But I cannot get over the things the guy has admitted to doing. I'm not talking about what they've accused him of doing. We've done a whole segment. You can go back and watch it a couple years ago. It's still on the YouTube channel, I think. I am not... The stuff the guy is admitted to doing is enough to keep me away from him. I'm good. Hard pass. No, thank you. Not someone I want to be affiliated with. Not someone I want to associate. Not someone I want to openly, publicly support or support at all. I'm not about it. And I'm not even talking about the multiple wives thing. Look, I find polygamy gross. You do you. That's your thing, man. That's not what I'm talking about. There's some other stuff that we won't get into on this segment here. But they looked into charges on Tate, and the Tate brothers went to Vegas. I don't know. It doesn't look too innocent if they say, hey, we're looking into charges against you, and you flee the state. I mean, and I am a little concerned. This appears to be a political move because DeSantis is flexing his arm. I think this is a culture war thing. DeSantis is trying to gear up for 2028 and maybe stick it to some of the more MAGA side. This is like an inside baseball Republican culture war thing going on here. I am a little hesitant that they just opened the investigation into these guys for crimes that weren't even allegedly, because the crimes weren't even allegedly committed in the United States that they're accusing them of over in Romania. So it seems to me like they're just digging into a guy looking for crimes, the way you'd just start replacing parts on a car until it started to run again. I don't like that because that's a precedent they can set on all of us. As much as I'm not a fan of the Tate brothers, I'm not really a fan of what the state of Florida is doing there also. Now, after they said this, he went on the and that was my initial thought that, hey, we're digging into these guys looking for crimes rather than looking at crimes or digging into crimes looking for the perpetrators. After he said that, or after I said that to myself and jotted that down to come up here and bring up on the show, he went on the Candace Owens podcast and said this.
Come get me, arrest me, perp walk me, put me on the news, tell everyone I'm a human trafficker. You think I'm not versed? You think I'm not ready? I'm a Navy SEAL in this shit. Fucking come get me, raid my house, take my stuff. You think I sleep with a full phone full of evidence? You think I don't wipe my phone every night? You think I'm dumb? Come get me, arrest me. Let's do this all over again. I've done it for
You think I don't wipe my phone every night? That's something an innocent man would say. I mean, don't we all wipe our phones every night? Listen, he's supposedly an entrepreneur of some sort. That depends on connections. When you have any type of connections that you need to continue your business, believe me, you're not wiping your phone. You're saving as many phone numbers as you can. You're saving as much information on it as you can. You're not wiping your phone. You don't think I wipe my phone every night? Oh, my God. Now, that's not evidence that he's guilty of anything. Not in a legal sense, at least. But at the same time, I think we can take a personal, moral, and reasonable look at this and go, yeah, somebody who doesn't have anything to hide probably ain't wiping his phone every night. Doesn't mean we can convict you in a court of law of it, but it does mean that maybe you do have something to hide on that phone. Because wiping it every night, I don't want to wipe my phone once. That sounds like the biggest pain in the ass in the world. What would I do with my 15,000 JD Vance Photoshop memes if I wiped my phone? You know, I don't want to do that. I can't imagine wiping my phone every night unless I was paranoid that somebody was coming to get me. Guys, listen, if you're a young man who's confused and maybe you didn't grow up with the best father figure or any father figure at all, I can see why you would be drawn to somebody like Andrew Tate. I get it because he says the right things. He's successful. You look at him and you go, you know what? If it's this guy or that freak Dylan Mulvaney, I'm going to go with this guy 100% of the time. I get it. I totally understand. But it's like we've said on this show before. I even asked Mia, when you get off the internet Very rarely do you see either of those extremes. I said, Mia, how many people do we know that remind you of either Andrew Tate or Dylan Mulvaney? And she said zero, zilch, none, nada. Nada, as her people would say. There's not, but I can see why young men who are confused and misguided gravitate toward this guy, because he does have an appealing message. He does say the things you want to hear. You've got this society, school, media, corporate America, et cetera, has done nothing but tell you that you're toxic and horrible for no reason other than the fact that you're a straight male, and maybe white in some cases, maybe not. But you're a straight male, so you're naturally toxic. You're a potential rapist by default. You're just a monster, and you should apologize and be thankful that we even allow you to exist in a polite society. I can see how your first instinct would be to fight fire with fire. I understand. But you guys, there are better influences out there than this guy. There really are. There really are. Dry Creek Wrangler School, I tell I'm blue in the face, love his coffee, love his YouTube channel, will always be a superior influence to young men who are, I mean, you don't even have to be confused. Maybe you're just a dude that wants to hear another dude talk real, but not over the top like that, just a real dude. Dry Creek Wrangler School is the best you're going to get on YouTube. Joe Rogan's another one. Patrick Bet-David, maybe. I've heard some things about his business practices. I don't know the details of it. Patrick Bet-David, Christian refugee from Iran, came over here with nothing. Dad worked at a dollar store, joins the army, becomes U.S. Army Airborne, leaves the army, becomes a successful entrepreneur worth hundreds of millions of dollars, his beautiful wife, great family, awesome kids. Look up to that guy. That's the American dream. Even J.D. Vance, the vice president. Go read his book. All of those people are, for young men, are better people to look up to than this guy who wipes his phone every night, than this guy who openly brags about how he would con young, impressionable women into falling in love with him so that he could exploit them on OnlyFans and cam websites. Employ them and just take the majority of their money. And then teach you, manipulation and control factors so that you could keep them around and keep the gravy train rolling there. All of those people and more are better influences than him. They really are. Shit, dude, go get a job at Home Depot and befriend the old man that's just working there on weekends because he's bored. You're going to learn a whole lot more about life from that guy than you will from Andrew Tate. More applicable skills that you could use in a positive manner, at least. And every time we do this, I don't read any of the comments on any videos about Andrew Tate. So whatever you're saying to me falls on deaf ears. And I do read other comments, like on the show, the live chats, I'll read those comments. TikTok, because I do want to see what you guys have to say. But if I look at a video about Andrew Tate and I see it's getting ratioed to hell with thumbs downs, and we've got, hundreds of comments, whatever the case may be, I don't even read it, because nobody that I respect has anything to say in those comments. Period. I mean, this is the guy right here. This is another astute observation from this moron, Andrew Tate. Check this out.
But if you're a man who's stuck with a woman and you don't even get along with each other and it's a show marriage and you have to be together and you argue all the time and you're sexually repressed and you're being promised in secret that you can go to an island and finally be pleasured and satisfied, no one's ever going to find out, that's how you end up on the island. So this whole monogamy garbage that's being pushed by the West, especially amongst our elites, is the reason we have the biggest problem with pedophilia. And they don't have this problem in South America because they all have girlfriends. They don't have this problem in Russia because they all have girlfriends. The Thai elites don't have this problem. They all have girlfriends. But here in the West, we're saying, nope, you just stick with your wife, only her, be happy with her. What happens if you don't get along?
So you heard that right. He's blaming monogamous marriages he's blaming pedophilia on monogamous marriages. This is a retard. Truly. Yeah, because they don't have any problem with child abuse over in Thailand. None at all. And prior to that, in that interview, which you can watch on the Patrick Bet-David, the PBD podcast, And PBD will openly say, I don't agree with Tate's life choices. But they'll interview a lot of people. So credit to them. And I will too. Mayor Stothert, anytime. But shortly before that, he talks about how superior Islam and Muslim countries are to the United States for similar reasons, because supposedly monogamy is dragging us down. Yeah, no, again, Muslim countries, no problem with pedophilia over there, do they? With their child brides. None whatsoever. I mean, this is a moron. This is a moron. I can see how he would inspire confused young men the same way I can see how somebody like AOC inspires confused young women. Because they do a damn good job at pandering to your insecurities. Listen, dude, I'm a grown man. I got a wife. I got a mortgage. I got all kinds of responsibilities and shit going on in my life. That shit doesn't... There's nothing about what that guy says that intrigues me to the point where that's somebody I'd want to follow. There's not. You talk to women that are in similar situations. There's nothing that somebody like AOC or any of these communist losers say, these communist feminist losers say, that's appealing to them. There's just not. The older you get, and I think more importantly, the more experienced you get, the more you realize, and I say this all the time, but the more you realize there's a whole lot more gray in the world than you once thought there was. And people like Andrew Tate, people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, all these extremist nut jobs that you see that predominantly exist on the internet are appealing to people who lack life experience. Get out there and live a little bit. You will see these people are grifters and fools. Truly. And they're dangerous people that should be avoided. That's all I got for this show. We will see you guys on Saturday for the big show. We're going to be talking all kinds of fun stuff. Cheat on your taxes, not your spouse, and stay based.